Hey guys, hey gals, athletes. I'm really excited. It's Friday again. I'm coming back with tips, and as I'm kind of thinking about the things that I like to talk to people about, I like to bring real world practical advice and tips that you can execute on. And I definitely do that with science sometimes. I definitely do that with workout tips. I definitely do things that you can work with acutely. But how many people have already deviated from their New Year's resolutions? I have not, actually. I'm actually doing pretty well. And I started to think about what is one of the things that I've done to gain the most success relative to myself over the past few years. And one of the things that I talk to my athletes about, they get so caught up sometimes in the minutia of everything has to be exact, is I more concentrate on, look, there's a lot of times that I've beaten people just because I've endured longer than them, so being able to stay motivated and staying focused and staying engaged for so many years has definitely helped me take some of the biggest steps by just being consistent. And one of the things that you need to do to be consistent is you need to be motivated, right? So I started to think, what are some of the things that I could pass on motivation-wise to people? One of the things that I know we all struggle with is nutrition. I'm not going to get into that here. I'm telling you now that if you're interested in revamping your nutrition, I'm going to do another live with Tanya Zuko here in a little bit about how we implement that. But that was the crux of my thought process, because yesterday I did my first cleanse day of 4 that I'm doing this month, and there's all kinds of crazy benefits to that, which I'll talk about in that live with Tanya if you're interested in that. But what are some of the things that I've done over the years to maintain motivation? And I kind of started to make a list, so apologize if I look away for a little bit. But one of the things that I found early on was, if you just start the workout, usually the time that you spend contemplating, should I do it or should I not do it, or do I really want to do it or not? If you just put the shoes on and get out the door and go and think about it, you can be 20 or 30 minutes into the stupid workout, and usually a workout is an hour or less, you'd be almost done. So stop using the time to think about it, just go do, right? Then I'll tell my athletes, use the 10-minute rule. So if you're on the fence on whether or not you really want to work out, I'll tell my athletes, or I used to tell myself, look, go out for 10 minutes. If after 10 minutes you've decided, I really don't want to be out here, I really don't want to be doing this, stop. But usually after 10 minutes you get through that, and then you can go out and you can usually get yourself motivated. But I would argue that if you're not motivated after 10 minutes, you might need a day off. Maybe you're not feeling it, and that's okay. I like to think about, like, for example, if I'm totally honest right now, I've started my 30-day challenge with my nutrition about cleaning it up, and I didn't really want to start it because sometimes I think we get overwhelmed with the idea of doing this long process, right? And this is really hard to articulate, but in day one, as I was halfway through it, I knew that I didn't want to be in day one again. And if I just finished it, I knew that I could move on to day 2. And if I can move on to day 2, then I can move on to day 3. And I didn't want to have to restart, right? And so that's another thing that I've always done, is I think back to when I was in the Marines, and it was overwhelming to think when you go there and they take you in the middle of the night and they drop you on these yellow footprints, and you're going to be there for 3 months or whatever it is. And it's like a lot of guys would start to count down days or weeks until they got out of there. I used to kind of figure out, okay, when you wake up, all I have to do is make it to breakfast, right? Not that I was dying to eat, but I could make it to breakfast, right? And then I just needed to make it to lunch, and then I just needed to make it to dinner. And then I knew no matter what happened that day, I was going to go to bed at the same time relative as if I finished or didn't finish all my things. And how did I want to lay in bed at night? Thinking about all the reasons why I made excuses that I didn't do stuff, or proud of myself that I was able to kind of get through it. And so same thing now, I apply that with workouts, is I just try to make small victories. So I tell so many of my athletes, don't look at the totality of the week when you have a populated workout schedule. Just get up and work through your next task, whether that's getting through something at work, whether that's doing something that you're doing with an athletic-wise. Just execute the next task, get a win or not, move on, and then go to the next one. If we get too much in our own head about everything that we have to do, it gets overwhelming and we get shut down. I visualize. Now, I'll tell you, I visualize, but every therapist or sports psychologist I worked with, I would roll my eyes whenever they would start doing visualization stuff, because it's like, honestly, I never struggled with it. Like, I don't know how you don't visualize. There's not a workout that I do that I don't visualize a situation that I was in for a race prior, or a situation I want to be going forward. And I'm always putting myself in that headspace of, where do I want to be? What was a competition where I wish I had something left? Or now is the opportunity for me to get better, so that the next time I am in that situation, I can handle it the way I wish that I could. Or maybe I did handle it well the last time and I want to be able to put myself there again. And so many times, again, this is hard to articulate, I don't always want to work out, but I know when I get to my next start line, I'm going to be glad that I did. And I try to remind myself of that often, right? So that's one of the things that I work on all the time. So really think about putting yourself on that start line. Really think about, how are you going to feel when you are ready to start? And then try to use that as your motivation. The other thing too is, don't be afraid to change things up, especially in base season. I know a lot of people are dealing with cold. If maybe, I don't know, like I have athletes right now, they're getting iced in, or they're not able to travel on their roads. Like, just find cool, exciting ways to get your heart rate up. Do the things that are intended in the workout, and it's okay sometimes, as long as you're being consistent and as long as you're remaining motivated, to give yourself some passes sometimes. And that's the other thing that I'll say on the flip side too, is that you can sometimes, like I always tell my athletes who are freaking out because they missed a workout, or maybe sometimes two, and I'll say, listen, last September or whenever their big race was, were you thinking on the start line like, man, I didn't think I was going to do well because I missed my January 8th or my January 10th workout last year? And they were like, no, of course not. Now, if you miss all of January and all of February, then obviously that's an issue. But I know everybody who listens to me and are tuning in, they're trying to get better. And most times, sometimes the best thing a coach can do is tell you what not to do. And if you are really smoked, give yourself, sometimes it's better just to call it a day and move on and start fresh. And if you find yourself in that situation, if you find yourself having to travel, if you find yourself having to dedicate yourself to family, which, let's be honest, most of us are not making money doing triathlon, so there's other things that are more important in our life than triathlon, or there should be sometimes, you can rest assured there's other ways to skin the cat. So the other thing I tell my athletes too is, I write workouts for best case scenarios. Life doesn't always present us with best case scenarios, or another way to put it is, it's no longer the best case scenario now that we know the actual life situation that you're going to be in. So it needs to be adjusted. Don't feel guilty having to adjust. Figure out what you're trying to accomplish out of the week. There's other ways to accomplish that. But even if you have to scrap the whole week, a general rule of thumb is, you can usually make up the time missed in about 50% of the time. So if you missed a week, you can expect to feel rusty for 2 or 3 days. Who can handle that? Me, I can, right? So that's it. I'm going to stop this a little early today. I'm going to really encourage, we just did an awesome podcast with our strength coach, Garrett Krug, and I can tell you, it was one of those times, it was like blown away. Like, I actually know this guy and I've been able to work with him for 5 years. And the things that he gets into, and the way that he diagnoses athletes, and the way that he administers strength stuff, all I need to know is that he is part of our Superfly community. We know that people have needs and wants for things like strength and training plans. It's $25 a month. So you're welcome to go buy it retail. It's going to cost you 25% more. But if you want training plans, check out our Superfly community. You get the strength that's included. You get 2 calls every week. Next Tuesday, this coming up, so the 16th, we're going to be talking about run form and ways to change your run form. If you're interested in tuning in, it's going to be a live chat back and forth with Jim Vanson, Tanya, and I on our Zoom. So I see people watching. You know, honestly, if I'm honest, most time I was doing this, I was so nervous I didn't watch the comments. But I see everything up here now, and so I'm thankful for everybody tuning in. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. And hopefully we get to interact back and forth on our Superfly community. And if you're interested in revamping your race nutrition, because it does make all the difference in the world, check out the live that I'm about to go do with my awesome wife, Tanya Zuko.